The bride froze. Her hand slipped from the groom's. And in that exact second, her world, so perfectly crafted, began to fall apart. People gasped. Someone knocked over a chair. Her heart pounded so loud it echoed inside her head. She blinked, trying to make sense of what was happening. She looked at the man standing across from her, the wealthy, charming tycoon she had given up everything for. His smile faded. His jaw tightened. The church was silent, but the air felt heavy, like something terrible had just been released. A figure stepped through the back door. Slowly, calmly. Not rushed, not shouting anymore, just walking with purpose. Every eye turned. And when she saw who it was, her knees weakened. It was him. The man she had left behind. Her husband. He didn't look angry. That would have been easier. No, his eyes looked hollow. Wounded. And yet, somehow, calm. He wasn't there to make a scene. He wasn't there to fight. He had come for something else. Something that chilled her more than anything else in the room. "May I speak with the bride?" he said softly. The priest glanced at the tycoon, unsure. The groom, Alexander Pierce, tech millionaire, Forbes cover boy, the man every woman in the city whispered about, stepped forward. "This is insane," he said through gritted teeth. "This wedding is private. Get out, or I'll call security." But the ex-husband didn't move. He looked only at the bride. At Emma. She stood frozen in her wedding dress, her veil slightly crooked, her eyes wide. Her hands trembled. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the priest. "I need a minute." Gasps rippled through the pews. Alexander grabbed her arm. "Emma. What are you doing?" She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in weeks. And suddenly, she didn't know who he was anymore. The man who had made her feel so alive, so seen, now looked like a stranger in a perfect suit. She gently pulled her arm away. "I just need 5 minutes," she said. Then she turned and walked down the aisle, away from the man she was about to marry, toward the man she had once vowed never to see again. They stood outside the church, in the garden. Quiet. Just the two of them. The sounds of the wedding inside faded. The white roses around them moved in the breeze. Emma finally spoke. "Why are you here, Daniel?" He didn't answer at first. He looked at her dress. "You look different. You came here to say that?" He looked up. "No. I came because you need to know the truth. Before you do something you'll regret for the rest of your life." Emma laughed bitterly. "You mean like marrying you?" Daniel didn't flinch. "I mean like marrying him." There was something in his voice. Not jealousy. Not bitterness. Something colder. Like fear. She folded her arms. "Say what you came to say. And then leave." He pulled something from his pocket. A small, folded piece of paper. "What is that?" she asked. "It's not mine. It was sent to me. Last night." He handed it to her. She opened it. Her hand started shaking as she read. There were only 8 words. "If she marries him, she won't survive the week." Emma couldn't breathe. "What is this?" she asked. "I don't know who sent it. There was no name, no number. Just this note in my mailbox, at my apartment. I wasn't going to come. I told myself it was a prank. But the way it was written, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a warning." Emma looked around, suddenly paranoid. The garden felt less peaceful now. The breeze felt colder. "You think Alexander?" "I don't know," Daniel said. "But do you? Do you really know him?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because somewhere deep inside her, beneath the excitement, the glamour, the money, there had always been a whisper of doubt. Daniel continued, "You said you left me because I was boring. Safe. Predictable. You wanted adventure. Passion. A bigger life." Emma looked away. He stepped closer. "You said I made you feel invisible. But do you even feel real with him?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Don't do this now. I'm not trying to win you back," he said. "I just want you to be alive." Inside the church, people whispered. The pianist stopped playing. Alexander paced, his fingers twitching. 10 minutes passed. 15. Someone asked if the wedding was off. He ignored them. Then, finally, the doors opened. Emma stepped back inside. Alone. The guests turned. Alexander froze. She walked straight to the altar. She stood in front of him. And said the words no one saw coming. "I need to know the truth. Right now." Alexander blinked. "What are you talking about?" She held up the note. "This was sent to Daniel. Last night. Someone thinks you're dangerous." Gasps echoed. A woman in the front row dropped her phone. Alexander's face changed. But not with shock. With something else. Something worse. Amusement. He smiled. And then he whispered, "You really thought they wouldn't try to stop this?" Emma's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" He leaned in closer. "There are people who don't want this marriage to happen. People who would do anything to keep us apart." "Why?" she asked, trembling. "Because of what I know," he said, voice barely audible. "And what you're about to find out." Emma stepped back. "You're scaring me." His smile vanished. "Then don't marry me. Walk away. Go back to your safe little life. But if you walk through that door, you'll never be safe again. They'll come for you too." The church was silent. Emma's veil fluttered in the wind. She didn't know whether to run, or stay and demand answers. She looked at the priest. "I need time," she said. And with that, she walked out of the church a second time. This time, she didn't look back. Later that night, Emma sat alone in her apartment. Still in her dress. The note sat on the table in front of her. She tried calling Alexander. No answer. She tried messaging Daniel. His phone was off. Her wedding had been turned upside down. The man she trusted most had told her to run. The man she trusted most had told her to run. The man she had loved before had come back with a warning. And now she was alone, holding a note that felt more like a threat than a warning. And then, her doorbell rang. She got up slowly. Looked through the peephole. No one was there. She opened the door. An envelope lay on the floor. No name. No address. Just one line written in red ink. "You made the right choice. But it's not over." Emma didn't sleep that night. She sat in the same chair, still wearing her wedding dress. The envelope with the red ink message lay on the table in front of her, right next to the first note Daniel had given her. Her phone buzzed several times throughout the night, but she didn't answer. Her heart was numb. Her hands were cold. Her mind kept replaying Alexander's last words at the altar. "If you walk through that door, you'll never be safe again." What had he meant? She'd thought she knew him. Alexander Pierce, the charming tech billionaire. A man with power, yes, but also generosity. He'd taken her to Paris, to private islands, had whispered sweet nothings under moonlight. He told her she was special. That she mattered. That with him, life would finally be more than dishes, bills, and boring Tuesday nights. But now? Now she was beginning to wonder, had she fallen in love with a dream, or a dangerous illusion? Morning arrived like a slap in the face. Emma finally changed out of her wedding dress. As she pulled the zipper down, a strange thought struck her: was this dress even hers anymore? Or was it a costume for someone she never really was? She showered, made coffee, and opened her laptop. She needed answers. She couldn't rely on feelings anymore. She needed facts. First, she searched Alexander's name. Most of the results were what she expected: glowing articles, flashy photos, business awards, red carpets, charity events. But when she filtered the results by oldest posts and dug deeper, something strange came up. An article from 8 years ago, published in a small, now-defunct blog. Tech startup founder accused in missing intern case, no charges filed. Emma's stomach dropped. She clicked the article. Alexander's photo stared back at her, younger, but recognizable. The post described a 22-year-old intern named Melanie Ford, who had gone missing in 2017. She'd worked at Alexander's first startup, one that collapsed mysteriously just a year later. The article claimed Melanie and Alexander were rumored to have been close, though he denied any personal relationship. Police had interviewed him but never filed charges. Melanie was never found. The story had vanished under the radar. No follow-up stories. No mentions in major news. It was like the world had moved on, but Emma couldn't. Because now she remembered something: Melanie Ford. Not her face, but the name. It was the name on the Wi-Fi network at Alexander's country house. She had asked once, half joking, "Who's Melanie?" He'd smiled and said, "An old code name from work." Emma felt sick. She stared at the screen, the article glowing like a ghost. Had she almost married a man tied to a missing woman? And then the doorbell rang. This time, she checked the peephole before opening the door. A woman stood outside, mid-50s, modest clothes, anxious eyes. Emma opened the door slightly. "Can I help you?" The woman gave a weak smile. "Are you Emma Lane?" "Yes. I'm sorry to show up like this. I saw your name in the news. The wedding story. I recognized you." Emma blinked. "Do I know you?" "No," the woman said softly. "But you're not the first." Emma frowned. "The first what?" The woman looked down. Her hands trembled. "The first woman who almost married him. Her name was Margot Ellis, and she had once been engaged to Alexander too, 6 years ago. Back when he was rising fast but wasn't yet a household name. They had dated for 10 months. He proposed quickly, and she said yes. At first, everything felt like a dream. But Margot noticed things. Small things. He was charming in public, but cold in private. Generous with money, but controlling with attention. Once, she caught him locking a drawer in his home office. When she asked, he grew furious. Another time, she swore he had followed her without her knowing. And then, just weeks before their wedding, she received a letter under her door. 5 words, scribbled in black ink. "Leave him. Or disappear forever." She left the next day. Quietly. Moved cities. Changed her number. Told no one. "I thought I was crazy," Margot said, wiping tears from her eyes. "Until I saw your name. Until I saw your photo on the news. Same smile. Same eyes. Same look I used to wear. Like you were in love with a man who didn't really exist." Emma sat on the couch, stunned. "Why are you here?" she asked gently. "Because I was too scared to warn anyone back then," Margot said. "But not anymore. You need to leave. Don't just walk away, run." Margot left after an hour. Emma sat frozen for a long time. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, meet me at the old rose garden. 6 p.m. Come alone. She stared at the screen. The old rose garden. It was a small public park behind the art museum, quiet, rarely used, with a path lined by wild rose bushes. She didn't recognize the number. But something inside her said this wasn't random. 6 p.m. She knew it could be a trap. Or a prank. Or worse. But she also knew, she had to go. At 6 p.m. sharp, Emma arrived at the rose garden. The sun was low. The air smelled of damp earth and petals. The path was empty. She walked slowly, heart pounding. Halfway through the path, she saw someone standing near the fountain. Daniel. She almost ran to him. You scared me. I thought. I didn't send that message, he said quickly. But someone wanted us both here. What do you mean? He handed her a small object. A voice recorder. It was in my mailbox this morning. No note. Just this. He pressed play. The voice was male. Distorted. Altered. They're watching both of you. They know she's asking questions. The wedding wasn't about love. It was about control. She's a key. She just doesn't know it yet. Stop looking, or they'll stop you. Silence. Then the recording ended. Emma stared at Daniel. What does that mean? I don't know, he said. But I think we're in something bigger than we thought. That night, Emma returned home and tore through everything Alexander had ever given her, letters, gifts, notes. She searched every box, every file, looking for clues. In one of the drawers of her closet, she found an envelope tucked behind a shoebox. It was unmarked. Inside was a flash drive. She plugged it into her laptop, her hands shaking. There was one file. A video. She clicked play. It was shaky footage, looked like it had been secretly recorded on a phone. A room, dimly lit. Two men talking. One of them was Alexander. The other was older. Bald. Serious face. Foreign accent. They were talking about something called Project Thornlight. Emma paused the video and replayed it, turning the volume higher. Alexander's voice came through clearly. She doesn't know anything. But once she's in, she's ours. No way out. The man replied. What if she finds out? Alexander laughed. Then she'll vanish. Just like the others. Emma's mouth went dry. She stared at the screen, her blood cold. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about her. And she was running out of time. Just before midnight, her lights flickered. Her phone turned off by itself. The laptop shut down. Then, her window rattled. A shadow moved outside. She rushed to the window. No one was there. But something was taped to the glass. A final note. This one handwritten. Her name written in black ink. She opened it. You were warned. Now you'll see the truth. The next morning, Emma didn't wake up, she bolted up. The note from last night still lay on her kitchen counter. She read it again for the 10th time. You were warned. Now you'll see the truth. Who was sending these messages? Who knew where she lived? Who had been following her? And why was she suddenly in the middle of something that felt less like a broken engagement, and more like the opening scene of a crime novel? Emma's hands trembled as she opened her curtains. Nothing but sunlight. No shadow. No figure. No clue. But she knew this wasn't over. After showering and dressing in jeans and a hoodie, she made her way to a quiet cafe on the edge of town. It was the one place she used to go before all this, before Alexander, before the private jets and the diamond rings, before she lost track of her own reflection. She brought her laptop and the flash drive. She replayed the video again. She needed to notice something, anything. Alexander. Another man. Project Thornlight. She paused the video at the 13-second mark. The man talking to Alexander, she'd never seen him before. But now, something on the wall behind them caught her eye. A photograph. Framed. Faded. Hanging behind the older man's chair. It showed 3 people. All smiling. All wearing white coats. She zoomed in. Her heart skipped a beat. One of the people was Melanie Ford. The same woman who had gone missing 8 years ago. But why was her photo on the wall behind a man talking with Alexander about women disappearing? Emma looked around the cafe. No one was watching. She took a screenshot of the paused video and emailed it to herself. Then, she Googled the words, Project Thornlight. Nothing came up. Next, she searched, Melanie Ford plus missing plus lab coat. Finally, a clue. A medical journal had once published an article co-written by a Melanie Ford, research assistant, at a private biotech company in Chicago, Heliogen Labs. Emma's fingers froze above the keys. That was the company name she'd seen in Alexander's email signature once, months ago, one he claimed was an investment he rarely talked about. But if Melanie had worked there and disappeared, what exactly was this lab doing? And what did Alexander want with her? Emma met Daniel that afternoon at a quiet park near the river. She explained everything, the new video details, the photograph, the lab, the strange name. He listened carefully. Then he said something she hadn't expected. I have a contact. Works in private security. He might be able to help us dig deeper. But once we cross that line, there's no turning back. Emma nodded. We've already crossed it. Daniel's contact was named Liam, a former intelligence analyst turned private investigator. They met him that evening at a low-key diner in a nearby town. Liam was direct, no small talk. He listened as they explained everything. When Emma showed him the video and the photograph, he looked concerned. You're not just dealing with a rich guy with secrets, he said. You're dealing with a network. What kind of network? Emma asked. The kind that doesn't use public email. The kind that doesn't leave digital footprints. The kind that uses missing people as warnings, not accidents. He leaned in. I'll look into Project Thornlight. But if I find something, you'll have a choice to make. Knowing the truth might not protect you. It might put you on their list. Emma's stomach twisted. But she didn't back down. Find it, she said. I want to know. 2 days later, Liam called. Meet me, he said. Alone. Emma didn't tell Daniel. Something in Liam's voice made her feel like she had to do this solo. They met at an old train station, long abandoned. Liam looked different. Nervous. Pale. He handed her a folder. You need to read this. Quickly. And then burn it. Emma opened the folder. Inside were printed documents. Surveillance photos. A few reports marked classified that looked like they'd been stolen from a government database. The documents explained the following. Project Thornlight was a private human behavior experiment, originally approved under a different name in 2012. It claimed to study decision-making under emotional stress, but former insiders had leaked that the project manipulated relationships, psychological conditioning, and in some cases, used controlled romantic partnerships to test human loyalty and obedience. Participants were chosen without consent, recruited through staged encounters, false jobs, or romantic setups. Many were women with no family ties or close networks. Some of them were reported missing months after the trials began. The project was supposedly shut down in 2017. But new evidence pointed to a continuation under the radar, rebranded, privatized, and possibly funded by people like Alexander Pierce. Emma's mind raced. Was she just another test subject? Did Alexander ever love her at all? Liam continued, Melanie Ford wasn't just an intern. She was a test case. She discovered the truth, and tried to leave. Emma whispered, and then she disappeared. Liam nodded. I don't think you were ever meant to get to the wedding, Emma. The ceremony was symbolic. They test your limits. Your obedience. How far you'll go for love, before they break you. Emma felt tears rising, but not from sadness. From rage. I want to expose them, she said. All of them. Liam hesitated. That will make you a target. Are you ready for that? Emma's jaw clenched. I'd rather live in fear than live a lie. Back at home, Emma opened an old photo album. She flipped through pictures of her and Alexander, dinners, trips, his hand around her shoulder, always so charming. But now, she saw them differently. In one photo, she noticed something chilling. In the mirror behind them, someone was taking the photo. Someone not part of their trip. She zoomed in. It was the same older man from the video. The one in the white coat. The one talking to Alexander about no way out. Why was he following them? Why was he in so many photos, in the background, at airports, behind trees? Emma realized something awful. From the very beginning, she was never alone with Alexander. They had been watched. She had been watched. That night, she called Daniel. We have to go to that lab. Heliogen Labs in Chicago. That's where it all started. Maybe that's where it ends. He hesitated. It's dangerous. I know. But you're still going? She took a deep breath. Yes. 2 days later, Emma and Daniel arrived in Chicago. They found Heliogen Labs, no longer in operation, but the building still stood. It was cold, metal, gray, a forgotten place behind barbed fences and warning signs. But Liam had given them a way in. A back door. A time when security would be light. That night, they entered. The lab was dusty, abandoned, but still held secrets. File cabinets. Folders. Locked drawers. Emma searched until she found a folder labeled Subject Profile Number 432, EL. Her initials. She opened it. Inside was a photo of her, taken years ago. Before she ever met Alexander. Under it was a page with information. Age, 27. Family, estranged. Risk of exposure, low. Primary method, romantic bond/emotional dependency. Status, active. Phase, finalization, emotional shattering. Emma's knees gave out. She dropped to the floor. Everything had been planned. Even her breakdown at the altar. Even the notes. Even her falling in love. It was all a test. In the corner of the lab, Daniel found a hidden drawer. Inside was a burned ID badge. He held it up. Melanie Ford. And beside it, a USB drive with her name scribbled on it. They took everything and ran. Later, in their hotel room, Emma played the USB drive. It was a video recording, Melanie, sitting in the same lab. She looked scared. Angry. Tired. She spoke into the camera. If you're watching this, you probably fell into the same trap I did. You thought it was love. You thought you were building something real. But they were studying you. Manipulating you. Controlling every word he said to you. Every date. Every fight. Even the proposal. None of it was real. You were a file. An experiment. She paused. I tried to escape. I don't know if I will. But if you're hearing this, don't let them win. Don't let them erase you. The screen turned black. Emma stared at the screen, fists clenched. They won't, she whispered. They won't erase me. But just then, there was a knock at the hotel door. Daniel peeked through the peephole. He turned pale. They found us. The knock at the hotel door felt like a heartbeat gone wrong. Daniel froze, his eye pressed to the peephole. Emma whispered, "Who is it?" He didn't answer at first. When he finally pulled away, his voice was low. It's not the police. And it's not hotel staff. Emma felt the weight of everything they'd just discovered, the files, the USB, Melanie's message, her own profile labeled like she was nothing but an object. And now someone was here. Maybe to finish what the experiment had started. Daniel grabbed the USB and stuffed it in his coat pocket. We have to go. There's no back exit, Emma whispered, panicking. We're 4 floors up. Daniel pointed to the balcony. Fire escape. They didn't wait. Emma grabbed her bag and slung it over her shoulder. The USB was everything now, proof, truth, and possibly their only defense. The knock came again. This time louder. A second knock joined it. A different rhythm. 2 people outside. They climbed over the balcony railing and carefully stepped onto the narrow metal stairs. Cold air bit their skin. The Chicago night was loud, wind, traffic, sirens somewhere far. But here? All that mattered was the silence right behind them. As they reached the second level of the fire escape, Emma looked up, the hotel door opened. A man in black stepped onto the balcony above them. He saw her. Go! Daniel shouted, pushing her downward. They didn't stop. The man gave chase, fast and precise, like someone trained. By the time they hit the alley below, a second figure appeared from the far end. Blocking the street. Trapped. Emma scanned quickly. Trash bins. A locked gate. A narrow passage. She grabbed Daniel's arm. There. They squeezed into the tight path between 2 buildings. The walls nearly scraped their shoulders. Behind them, footsteps pounded, closing in. Emma spotted a service door, old, rusted, maybe from a kitchen or a storage unit. She yanked the handle. It creaked open. They dove inside and shut it behind them. Darkness swallowed them. Emma's breathing was sharp, shallow. She leaned against the wall. We can't stay here, Daniel said. They'll check every exit. Emma opened her bag and fished out her phone. No signal. Of course. The building was probably wrapped in steel and concrete. A perfect trap. They waited 5 minutes. 10. Footsteps passed. Then silence again. When they finally stepped back into the alley, it was empty. But Emma knew, this wasn't over. They weren't safe. Not even close. Back in a rental car, Daniel drove them far from downtown. Southside motels, hourly rooms, forgotten by tourists and luxury. Emma didn't care. She needed answers more than comfort. They locked themselves inside a dingy motel room and replayed Melanie's message again. Every word echoed deeper now. They were studying you. Every date. Every fight. Even the proposal. You were an experiment. Emma's jaw clenched. Alexander looked into my eyes and told me he loved me, she whispered. He cried when he proposed. Daniel shook his head. He was trained to say that. Conditioned. Probably fed lines. His entire role was to pull your emotions apart. She turned to him, eyes wide. Then why did he panic at the altar? Why run? Daniel's silence was loud. Maybe he wasn't following the script anymore. Emma blinked. Wait, what if he fell for me? It was insane. But suddenly, everything started to shift in her mind. The night he called her before the wedding, begging to talk. The look on his face when she approached the altar. The hesitation. The break in his voice. What if Alexander had started the lie? But somewhere along the way, the experiment became real for him too. They had to find him. If he was still alive. If he was still. Alexander. Liam answered on the second ring. We were followed, Emma said. We had to run. I know, Liam replied grimly. They traced the USB. Can they find us now? They're already trying. You need to disappear. Emma cut him off. We want to find Alexander. A pause. Then Liam sighed. You're not going to like this, he said. But he's not in the US anymore. 3 hours later, Emma and Daniel were in a safe house on the edge of Indiana. Liam met them there with files and coffee. He dropped a single photo on the table. It was Alexander. In an airport. A few days before the wedding. Where was this taken? Emma asked. Zurich, Liam replied. Switzerland. Emma's eyes narrowed. Why was he there? Liam pulled out another paper, a flight log. He flew there under an alias 2 months before the wedding. Visited someone named Dr. Ivan Roth, a neurologist and former government contractor. And? Roth worked on human behavioral rewiring. Same field as Thornlight. He was rumored to have helped recover subjects who started rebelling. Emma's stomach turned. You think they were planning to recondition Alexander? Wipe him? Liam nodded. And maybe they did. But here's the twist, after the wedding collapse, Roth went missing too. Daniel leaned forward. So now both Alexander and Roth are off the grid. Emma whispered, unless they're hiding together. They needed to follow the trail. The next day, using burner passports Liam provided, Emma and Daniel flew to Zurich. It felt unreal. Just a week ago, Emma was planning a honeymoon in Italy. Now she was hunting her almost husband through cold foreign cities. Zurich was cold and quiet, its streets too clean, its secrets buried too deep. They found Roth's old clinic. Empty. A for lease sign in the window. But the cafe across the street still operated. Emma approached the waitress, showed her a photo of Alexander. The woman frowned. Yes. I saw him here. With another man. They sat there, she pointed, every Tuesday for weeks. Last time was maybe 2 weeks ago. Did you hear anything? The woman hesitated. They were arguing. The younger one, your man, he said something like, I remember things now. She wasn't just data. She was real. Then the older one, he said, you were never meant to feel anything. That's your flaw. Emma swallowed. He did fall for her. And someone tried to erase it. That night, back at a budget hotel, Emma couldn't sleep. Her emotions were all over the place, betrayal, grief, confusion, and something else. Hope. If Alexander remembered her, if he broke the conditioning, could they find him before they did? She turned to Daniel. We have to move faster. Using Roth's financial records, Liam tracked a bank withdrawal in a small Swiss village near the Alps. Emma and Daniel drove there the next morning. A quiet place. Fog. Pine trees. Old houses. Then, they saw him. Across a courtyard, at a small farmer's market. Alexander. Wearing a coat, his hair longer, beard unshaven. He looked human. Fragile. Emma froze. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Do we approach?" Emma nodded. Her heart felt like it would explode. She walked across the square, step by step. "Alexander," she whispered. He turned. His face went white. "Emma?" His voice cracked. He dropped the bag of apples he was holding. She didn't move. Neither did he. Then finally, he stepped forward. "I thought you were gone," he said. Tears filled her eyes. "You lied to me. I know. You hurt me. I know. You were using me." He looked down. "I didn't want to." Silence. Then she asked the question burning in her chest. "Was any of it real?" Alexander lifted his eyes. "Yes," he whispered. "It became real. That's why they came for me." Emma had imagined this moment 1,000 different ways. She'd pictured screaming at him. Throwing something. Demanding the truth. But now, standing in front of Alexander in a sleepy Swiss village, all she could do was stare. The man she loved. The man who left her at the altar. The man who, according to everything they had uncovered, was trained to manipulate her emotions like she was part of an experiment. And yet, his eyes weren't cold. They were broken. They sat inside a quiet cafe not far from the market. The windows fogged from the cold. 3 mugs sat untouched, 2 coffees and a tea. Daniel sat at the far end of the table, watching carefully, but giving them space. Emma didn't look away from Alexander. "Start from the beginning," she said, voice calm but firm. "And don't lie. I already know too much." Alexander let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped for years. "I was recruited when I was 20, he began. "Not by Thornlight, by a different group at first. They said I was special. That I had natural empathy, control, awareness. I thought they were giving me a future." He paused. "They trained me. How to read people. Mirror their behaviors. Make them trust me. Fall for me." Emma's stomach turned. "And then Thornlight bought the program," he continued. "I became part of something bigger. They assigned us targets. High-emotion individuals. People they believed could unlock behavioral responses others couldn't." Emma clenched her fists. "You mean me?" Alexander nodded. "You weren't supposed to know. The experiment was designed to be invisible. I was only meant to influence you. Get close. Then report back." "And the proposal?" she asked coldly. He looked her in the eyes. "That wasn't part of the plan. Not at first." Emma's breath caught. "I fought them," Alexander said. "I told them I couldn't keep pretending. That I felt something real. They said it was leakage. A failure in conditioning. Dr. Roth was called in. He warned me. If I didn't comply, I'd be removed. Reprogrammed?" Daniel spoke up. Alexander gave a hollow nod. "They tried." Emma leaned forward. "So, what happened at the altar?" He looked away, ashamed. "I cracked. I was standing there, watching you walk toward me, and all I could think was, this isn't a lie anymore. I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't trap you in something built on deception. I had to run." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "And then what?" "I contacted Roth," he said. "I begged him to help me disappear. I didn't know he was already doubting the project. He'd seen too many people lose themselves. He took me in. Hid me. Helped me recover." Emma blinked. Recover? Alexander reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notebook, filled with scribbles, memories, sketches. I couldn't remember what was real and what was scripted. This helped me sort it out. Your laughter, our dates, your mother's birthday dinner, all of it blurred together. I had to write it down. Reclaim it. Emma reached for the notebook. Her fingers brushed his. Inside, she saw a drawing of the first time they met, the coffee shop, her red scarf, his green jacket. Then another, her asleep on his shoulder during a flight to San Diego. Another, the ring. Her eyes welled up. You loved me, she whispered. I still do, he said. But I don't deserve to. Suddenly, a shadow moved past the window. Daniel stood. Someone's watching. Alexander's body tensed. They found me. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small tracker. They've had my number since day one, he muttered. I've been sloppy. Daniel stepped to the window and peered out. Two men across the street. Same black coats. Same stillness. Emma's heart raced. Do we run? She asked. Alexander shook his head. They'll follow. And next time, they won't wait. Daniel pulled out the USB. We have this. If we leak it. They'll deny it, Alexander interrupted. They've buried projects deeper than this. We need something bigger. Like what? Emma asked. He turned to her. Like taking down the core server. The system they use to monitor and store all behavior records. The emotional logs. The simulations. Everything. Emma raised an eyebrow. Where is it? Alexander hesitated. Berlin. That night, the three of them were on a train to Germany. Alexander explained everything. Thornlight's European division used an old data center under an abandoned museum in Berlin. Officially shut down years ago. Unofficially, still alive. If we get inside, he said, we can expose the source code. The emotional manipulation programs. And if I plug in the USB, it'll upload a virus I coded with Roth, before he vanished. Emma frowned. Won't that alert them instantly? Yes. We'll only have minutes. Daniel rubbed his jaw. What's the backup plan? Alexander looked at him. There isn't one. Berlin was gray and cold. Clouds hung low. Everything felt heavier here, the history, the silence, the risk. They found the museum. Boarded windows. Locked gates. But cameras still blinked in corners. Emma's instincts screamed, trap. But they kept moving. At midnight, dressed in all black, they climbed the rear fence and entered through a rusted maintenance hatch. Inside, the place smelled like metal and dust. But deeper in, beneath the floorboards and past the old archives, they found a modern corridor. Steel doors. Blue lights. Motion sensors. Alexander took the lead. This way. He used an old code he'd memorized. The door opened. A humming filled the air, like a heartbeat made of wires. They stepped into the server room. Rows and rows of machines. Screens showed live graphs, heart rate patterns, facial recognition matches. One of the names on a screen, Emma Carter. She froze. They're still watching me? Alexander nodded. They always do. Even after the project ends. He moved fast, plugged in the USB, typed commands. 3 minutes, he said. Once this runs, every profile, every emotional log, every manipulation session gets exposed online. Untraceable. Emma stared at the screen. Her own face. Her smile from a year ago, recorded, analyzed, broken into data points. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Suddenly, footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Incoming. Daniel shouted. Alexander hit enter. The screen flashed. Upload started, 2:58. 2:57. Gunshots rang from the hull. Emma ducked. Alexander grabbed the main drive unit and threw it to Daniel. Get this out if I fail. It's the offline backup. More shouting. Men in black entered the room. One raised his weapon. Emma screamed. Alexander lunged, tackled the guard. A shot fired. Blood. More screams. The screen blinked, 1:09. 1:08. Emma dragged Alexander back. He was hit, shoulder. Daniel threw a chair at the second guard and ran for the exit. Emma pulled Alexander to his feet. I can walk, he groaned. They reached the stairs. Alarms blared. Outside, night still hung over the city, but the wind had shifted. As if something deep had just cracked open. Daniel reached the car first. Emma helped Alexander into the back. What about the upload? She asked. Alexander smiled through the pain. Complete. It's out there now. They can't take it back. The next morning, headlines exploded across the internet. Exposed, billion-dollar behavioral control experiment targets real citizens. Whistleblower reveals emotional manipulation programs tied to major tech firms. Thousands of victims unknowingly tracked and influenced for years. Emma's name was never mentioned. Nor was Alexander's. The USB wiped identifying markers. But their work had made it. Thornlight denied everything. But government inquiries began. Human rights groups launched investigations. Lawsuits followed. And somewhere, far away, a secret system had finally been dragged into the light. They hid for weeks. Rotating safe houses. Disguises. Silence. Alexander recovered slowly. His shoulder would scar, but he didn't care. Emma sat with him one night, watching the fire burn low. I don't know what to feel, she said. Everything was a lie. And yet, here we are. Alexander took her hand. I don't expect forgiveness. She looked at him. Then you've already earned more than most. Emma stood at the edge of a quiet cliff in northern Italy, the lake below still as glass, the air crisp with late autumn cold. She didn't know why she chose this place. Maybe because it felt like the end of the world. Or maybe because after everything that had happened, silence finally felt safe. Alexander was inside the small cottage they were hiding in. Daniel had left earlier that morning, heading to Geneva with the encrypted drive to give evidence at a private meeting with human rights lawyers. It was over. And yet, it didn't feel over. Emma's heart was still heavy. Her mind still tangled with questions. She had loved a man who'd been sent to study her, manipulate her emotions. But that same man had risked his life to save her, expose the truth, and dismantle a machine that had turned love into data. Who was she now? A survivor? A whistleblower? Or just a woman trying to breathe again? Behind her, the door creaked open. Alexander stepped out, wearing a thick wool sweater and a healing shoulder. You always find the highest places, he said gently. I like the view, she replied. You used to say that when you were nervous. Emma turned to him. I'm not nervous. I'm tired. He nodded, standing beside her. Do you think they'll come after us again? She asked. No, he said. We set off a bomb they didn't expect. They'll be scrambling to cover their tracks, not chasing ghosts. Emma was quiet for a moment. Roth's gone, she finally said. And I still don't know if he was a savior or another manipulator. Alexander sighed. Maybe he was both. Maybe everyone was, in some way. She looked at him. Even you? He didn't flinch. Especially me. They stood in silence. The lake shimmered below. Then Emma asked the question she'd been holding back for months. Was any of it real? Before the experiment, during? Alexander turned toward her. When I first met you, I was following orders. I read your file, learned your patterns, mimicked your energy. I was good at it, too good. Emma looked away. But then, he continued, you laughed at something I didn't expect. You challenged me in ways no algorithm could predict. You made me feel like I didn't have to perform. And suddenly, the training didn't work anymore. I started making mistakes, emotional ones. I stayed longer than I was supposed to. I bought you a book I wasn't authorized to give. I cooked dinner when I was meant to disappear. He took a deep breath. I fell in love with you. Emma's eyes filled. Then why didn't you fight harder, she whispered. Why didn't you stop the wedding before it broke me? I thought disappearing was the only way to set you free, he said. But I didn't realize disappearing would break you more than the truth ever could. A long silence. Then she said, I hate that I still love you. He didn't move. I know. 2 months later. The world had changed. The Thornlight leak had triggered a global outcry. While many governments denied involvement, civil protests erupted in cities across Europe and the US. A group of former subjects, people like Emma, began to come forward anonymously. Sharing their experiences. Telling the world what it felt like to be emotionally played, monitored, adjusted. They called themselves the unscripted. Emma was one of them. But she didn't speak at rallies or go on camera. Instead, she wrote. Under a pen name, she started a blog called Real Love in a Programmed World. In it, she shared stories, her own and those of others, stripped of names and places, but full of raw emotion. People responded in waves. Not just victims, but readers who doubted their own relationships. Who'd asked, was that real? Was I manipulated? Did they love me, or just study me? Emma's words gave them something, validation. Hope. And the truth that even in a world full of control, some emotions refuse to be contained. Alexander didn't return to hiding. Instead, he turned himself in. He walked into a secure legal center in Belgium and asked to speak on record, under witness protection. He gave them everything, names, files, passwords, internal memos. Things even the leaked USB hadn't included. Some officials tried to discredit him. But the tide had turned. The public saw him not just as a former handler, but as a man who betrayed a system to protect someone he once harmed. Some called him a hero. Others called him a coward. Alexander accepted both. Emma didn't visit him for 3 months. Not because she was angry. But because she needed to build something without him first. She bought a small cottage in the hills of Umbria and began teaching art again to local children. She cooked dinner with neighbors. Laughed in gardens. Slept with windows open and her phone off. And then, one morning, she packed a suitcase, took a train to Brussels, and stood in the visitor line at a rehabilitation center for protected witnesses. She didn't know what she'd say. She only knew she wanted to see his eyes again. Alexander walked into the room slowly, a faint limp from an old injury. He wore plain clothes, nothing fancy. His hair was longer, a little unkempt. But his eyes lit up when he saw her. Emma didn't speak at first. She just sat down across from him, hands folded. "Hi," he said, voice uncertain. She smiled faintly. "Hi." A pause. Then she reached into her bag and placed something on the table. It was his old notebook, the one filled with sketches and memories. She had restored it. Rebound the pages. Covered it in soft leather. He touched it gently, overcome. I missed you, he whispered. Emma looked him in the eyes. I believe you now. He swallowed. I understand if you can't forgive. I already did, she interrupted. He blinked. I hated you, she said honestly. Then I missed you. Then I tried to forget you. But none of it erased what we were, not even when it hurt. Alexander nodded. So, where do we go from here? Emma gave a small smile. One day at a time. 6 months later. Alexander was granted release under heavy supervision. He couldn't leave the country for another year, and he wasn't allowed access to any programming work. But he didn't mind. He joined a non-profit helping victims of psychological manipulation rebuild their lives. Quiet work. Real work. Emma continued her writing. Her blog reached millions. She never revealed her name. She didn't want to be famous. Just honest. 1 year later. They met again, this time in Paris. No disguises. No surveillance. Just two people sitting at a river cafe, watching the water move. I never thought we'd get a second chance, Alexander said. Emma looked at him, older, freer, and somehow more himself than ever before. It's not a second chance, she replied. It's the first real one. Epilogue. 3 years later. A major motion picture aired across international film festivals. Based on real events. Based on her story. The screen didn't show their real faces. The names were changed. But in the final scene, the actress playing Emma turned to the man who had betrayed her and said, even when the world tried to script me, my heart still knew what love felt like. The audience went silent. Some cried. Some clapped. And somewhere in the back of the theater, Emma and Alexander held hands, not because a program told them to, but because they wanted to. Together. Finally free.